Good afternoon and thank you. Namaskar. If someone can share my presentation.
Yes, Dr. Jain, you have control over the screen right now.
Should I share or?
Are you able to control, or I can navigate it? Either way.
I think you can share and then I can have control. Is it full screen or?
Yes, it's full screen. Yeah, you have all the control right now.
Okay, at the outset, I'm thankful to WRI for giving me an opportunity to share our experience of RECP, particularly in the MSME sector, to discuss about what exactly as a Gujarat Cleaner Production Centre we are working. So the contents of presentation, just I will discuss about the concept, what we have adopted from UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, the background of it, how we started, and there are benefits as already was discussed, some of the benefits in the initial question, what practices and methodology we have adopted with certain indicators and barriers, and some areas of application. We have documented number of success stories. Whatever time I have, I will discuss few. What I believe that it is a continuous application of preventive environmental strategy. It is not one-time activity like end of pipe solution. And this environmental strategy continues, which is applied to process, products, and services. It is just not like your end of pipe where you have to take some inlet parameters, design an ETP or CTP, and then go for the outlet. No, it is not one-time activity, and it addresses, which is very important, on processes, products, and services. So therefore, RECP, I would say, at one hand, it is there is increase in productivity. It's a part of environment management. Ultimately, idea is to reduce risk to human and the environment. Therefore, we are also addressing human development concept. Just to give you a small background about this concept, how it has emerged long back in the year 1972, where first international conference on environmental was held, and with that concern of environment related issues, many countries have started with the new ministry of Ministry of Environment. So that was what I believe in the year long 72, though our Water Act came in the year 74, followed by Environment Protection Act 1986. But again in 87, at global level, there was a report known as the Bunderton Land Report, which providing concepts of sustainable development. So what I understand that it was the first terminology of sustainable development emerged in the year 1987, where we had already Water Act 74 and EP Act 1986, followed by UNEP started, UNEP at that time, now UN Environment. They have started initiative of cleaner production, realizing that lot many solutions have already been implemented on end of pipe. Why can't we do something before pipe, and that is cleaner production. And thank that our summit in 1992 with Agenda 21 also set goals of sustainable development, where we are one of the partner and signatory as well, followed by UN Sustainable 17 goals, where we have committed to achieve by 2030. And then in 1994, the UNIDO and UNEP together initiated the establishment of what we call National Cleaner Production Centers. So they identified many countries where there is a potential of waste minimization or cleaner production. And initially, almost in 1994, more than 20 such national cleaner production centers were established. And 1998, they prepared an international declaration. And that this was the year when in 1999, 98, 99, they approached to Government of India with the concept of CP initially, followed by RECP. And they selected 3 states in our country, namely Punjab, Karnataka, and Gujarat. Unfortunately, GEIDC, that is Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation, which is an agency of government of Gujarat to promote and to establish industrial estate, has hosted this center. So it started working from 1999, working more and more on CP orientation and awareness program because that was needed. The industries were not aware, and so that is the first. Followed by we have started conducting training programs, and third and very important is for CP assessment, RECP assessment rather, to demonstrate the real implementation case studies to motivate other industries to follow. And we are also involved in preparing guidelines on cleaner production and on different industrial sector. Fortunately, we are also part of ENVIS, Environment Information System, a portal hosted by Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, where we are working on the theme of chemical waste and toxicology, and we are resource partner for the ministry on collection, collation, and dissemination of success stories of RECP. So that is how we in Gujarat started long back in 1999, and as on date we have a separate entity under the Industries Department of the state government. So the idea, as I told you, that on one side it is economic, that is production efficiency. We have to optimize the product use of natural resources, and that is why we call resource efficiency. That includes material, energy, and water, followed by environment management, because idea is to minimize the impact on environment due to pollution, and that is what through the reduction of waste and emissions. And as I told you that ultimately it is a social, because we are also committed to achieve UN sustainable 17 goals for the human development. So ultimately, with this philosophy of production efficiency, environment management, and human development, we believe that RECP addresses. If you talk of tools, or rather what we are practicing as per the structured tools defined by UNIDO, is a good housekeeping, for example. It is the most simple tool where low-hanging fruits, followed by input material changes. So in good housekeeping, you will see the leakages, the spillages, the losses in handling of raw material and product, followed by the input material changes. We are trying that how best we can use the non-toxic raw material instead of toxic material. For example, in dyes and dye, we are trying for natural dyes instead of synthetic dyes. And the process control, which is very important in MSME, that is somehow missing. So we are optimizing the process, which is one of the important tool, and going for the equipment modifications, because what I observed while working in more than 500 MSME in Gujarat, that the equipments which they were using is very old and needs a modification, needs a most efficient. And then we are also talk of technology change, like introduction of green chemistry in some of the process, the catalyst, the type of catalyst. And then while we're doing this, we also think that how best, if we cannot have new technologies or green technologies, how best we can develop the techniques, the upgradation of existing technology through better techniques. And then we also explore possibility of on-site reuse and recycling, or also there is a possibility of creation of some byproduct, and if required, we also suggest the product modification. If you talk of methodology, it is well defined again by UNIDO, which we are following, because at first step we have to plan and organize, because most of our industry's mindset is towards end of pipe, particularly in Gujarat, because we have created so many treatment facilities at common level, to tell you about more than 30 common effluent treatment plants, followed by 10 common secure landfill site for hazardous waste disposal, followed by a common multi-effective operator, this incinerator, multi-spreader, and whatnot. So their mindset is already there that I am member of all these facilities, so my environment has been taken care of. So it is very important that we need to have the management commitment, and then we have a well designated CP team, RECP team, where the persons who are working on the floor, on the process, are the members, including CP assessor from my side, like me or my colleagues. And then we establish a baseline RECP profile, and then just walk through the different processes to develop a flow diagram and eco map. And then we initially assessment, we find out the major focus where there are most waste streams. So in RECP, what I suggest and what I keep telling, that you go and identify the waste, identification of waste, characterization of that waste, and then causes and options, why it is there, how it is there, when it is there, what it is there. And then for audit focus, we go for detailed assessment through developing material, energy, and water balances, checking the stoichiometry of the reaction, and then we go for assessment of root cause of that inefficiency and why the waste is generated. And based on the tools, as I discussed in my previous slide, we generate RECP options. Each option is being reviewed, that how technically it is feasible, financial viable, and ultimately there must be improvement in environment. Then we prepare a monitoring, the implementation plan, give to the industry, and then we also monitor how it is being implemented. And once implemented, I will show you the certain parameters where we verify, and then once it is done, we go for the next question. So that is what I said, it is a continuous strategy, it is not one time activity. So when I talk of certain monitor or certain bench, certain parameters, so generally we go for resource productivity in terms of that how much energy, material, and water is consumed per ton of product. So how much water in maybe kiloliter or cubic meter, material in terms of kg or ton, or energy in terms of the unit kWh is being consumed per ton of the production. And then we compare before RECP and after RECP. So that will tell us that how much we are able to reduce their material consumption, their water consumption, and how much productivity is increased in terms of material. At the same time, we also go for monitoring like pollution intensity. We also check sometimes carbon intensity or carbon footprint, that emissions per unit of product, also the solid waste generation and wastewater generation per unit of product. So these are the some 6 parameters where we compare before RECP and after RECP. So that result tell us that yeah, here we could able to achieve some of the reduction out of these 6 parameters. If you talk of benefits, you already discussed in your very question that while there is an increasing productivity by reducing waste, so therefore there is an increase in economic benefits. It's very simple, and it is a continuous environmental improvement, and therefore there is the improvement in environmental situation as well. So these are the main benefits, and here whatever investment we propose, there is a calculated payback period also. But at the same time, it is not easy. We have been doing for last more than 15 years, but there are so many barriers, like there is a difficult in getting attitudinal change. So there is a willingness to accept this concept is still tough. We have been working hard to convince that, well, it is a better solution than what you suggest as an end of pipe. But then motivational and attitudinal change is still a sort of a question mark, particularly in MSC sector, because from the organization point of view, if you talk of a MSME, then there are people who takes decision, and those people who are working on floor, there are always some misunderstanding between them. So sometimes, though the top management is willing to do, the people who are working on floor, they are not ready to. There is always resistance to change, and that is the difficulty. From economic point of view, sometimes industry also tell, well, you have suggested good options, but here to implement, I have to incur some investment, and that is still some problem. Though I'll show you that in our industrial policy, there is a financial assistance also. But this economic time, so many times they will tell, no, it is not right time for us. You may come later on. We are passing through a very bad situation. So that is also, and sometimes we get there is some policy checking sort of thing, because when you go to for certain changes, I explained you, there is always some apprehension of the industry from state pollution control board. So in general, these are the barriers which we are facing when we go for the real RECP assessment. Further, there are many examples and areas of application, as I told you, that how we do it with the water, raw materials, power, waste, and effluent. And with these areas, there are certain case studies within the time given to me. For example, if energy is concerned, the three head I have selected. What are the sources where energy is used? When we go to industry, we just find out what are the sources where this energy is used, with what purpose, why are you using, and at the same time, what are the losses. Then we go for the causes. Once the sources are identified, why it is there, what factors influence these energy uses and losses, and then we generate options based on our tools. And for example, these are the probable checklists which we have been using. We go for ask them to go for surveying and repairing of steam leaks, which is very common in MSME. Many times their traps are not, steam traps are not working, their water pipeline, the tap and all that, and therefore they also have to go for regular surveying and repelling to attend it any leakages in hot or cold pipe. And one of the important is insulation. I will show you one industry where how insulation was poor, and therefore checklist also say reduce the compressed air pressure to minimum acceptable level, which is normally 70 to 90 psi. Also eliminate the use of compressed air knives as much as possible. Convert the plant lighting. The lighting is very common, and we suggest them to go for the most efficient lights like T5 or LED. And then ensure your HVAC filters, condenser, evaporator coils, and annually at least once in a year you must clean it, which is also missing in MSME. And conduct employers training, to train them, to make them aware is not only to train them also is one of the part of our checklist. I will show you one example. For example, we have done this radiography in one of our waste paper industries, Vapi, and through that we came to know that there was almost 18% of energy losses just because of poor insulation. This is another case study where we have done in a ceramic, where their kiln was modified, because as you know, the more the heavy the kiln and the furniture, there will be more gas consumption. It's very simple and common sense. So the conventional kiln was just changed to a extruded beds, and with that it's a lighter weight, so the weight is reduced, and therefore the consumption of gas was also reduced, which has resulted almost reduction in weight by 20, by just reducing the weight by 22%. With whatever investment they have done, the calculated payback period was only 3 months. So very simple. Another, if we can take, is adjusting the RPM of a pump, a reaction pump. There was an industry which was, they were using pump and motor for 30-meter head with a discharge of 920 meter cube per hour capacity, and consumption of electricity was observed 78 kilowatt hour. So when we realized that the RPM of that pump was 1300 plus, and then we optimize that, can we reduce it further, and we keep on taking trials by reducing the RPM itself, and we found that at RPM of 1000, uh, it was the most optimized, which did not hamper the rate of reaction and mass of transfer rate. So we optimized the simple RPM from 1300 to 1000 only, which reduces their energy consumption with no investment. The saving was almost more than 1.5 lakhs per year. So this is how simple we have modified the things. Another examples are usually of the chemical, because in Gujarat we have many MSME involved in intermediates of dyes, pharma and agro, and the special chemicals and all that. So again, from sources point of view, we just go and find out what are the sources where chemicals are used, with what purposes, and what is their effect in terms of product or conversion, and how they generate into waste. Then we go for the causes of this, what factors influence the use and effect of these chemicals, and then we generate options how we can minimize the waste generated through the use of chemical. So this is the checklist for the chemical use. We have to prepare just a list of raw materials and auxiliaries which are used in the process of an industry, and what are the functions of these chemicals and raw materials, and what are the quantities which they are using. And then we assign the cost of the raw materials and auxiliary, and what hazardous waste it is generated and what is the characteristics of that hazardous waste. For example, one case study. Sorry, some slide some missing here. In agrochemical sector, well, there was it's intermediate for agro, where they were using a carbon tetrachloride to mix it with acrylonitrate, that is ACN, and with the help of cupric chloride and catalyst DACL as a buffer solution. A solvent is resulting to form a tetra chlorobionitrate, that is TBN, and upon the acid hydrolysis, they were getting the final product of CMAC. So we check the quantity of acrylonite ACN, and then we realized that based on the stoichiometry, they were not using the optimized quantity, but more than what is required, and therefore we could able to reduce the amount of that ACN with the trial and all that, and we optimize, which is causes a significant cost benefit. I think the slide which I had given yesterday was not completed, because outcome, what I understand, because the cost is reduced, there was no investment, and the reduction in cost has resulted saving of almost more than 5 lakhs per annum to that industry. Another is material efficiency and waste minimization. That is again from the sources point of view, where it is used, with what purpose, what are the losses, what are the causes for this, and what could be the options. So checklist is again waste streams. We just, as I told you, that we go in identification of waste streams and we categorize as hazardous and non-hazardous, and we go for the details of input materials we use to generate waste streams, and the quantity of that one, and they check the efficiency of the process, which is very important in any MSME, because we have found the efficiency of the process, therefore the production yield is somewhere hardly 70 or 75%. Does it means that almost 25 to 30% is being is going as a waste, which could be unreacted mass or could be a byproduct. So with this process control, there are number of case studies we have generated, which are available on my website. In very recently, one of the chemical industries, again, with the checking of that process reaction to the real stoichiometry, we could able to reduce the quantity of catalyst itself. So there was no mole to mole reaction, proper mole to mole reaction, which we could achieve comparing the stoichiometry of that process with the real consumption of that catalyst. Again, one of the factors, as I told you, is water and reduction of wastewater. So again, where water is used, with what purposes, and then what are losses and the pollution problem, and the causes. What are the causes for these water losses and pollution, and how best we can minimize to generate options, because idea in RECP is to go for resource efficiency, at the same time the minimization of waste. So one of the case study, this is the checklist where we go for regular program of surveying and repairing of water leaks, design of their pump seals, which is also missing in MSME. Then we also optimize their water treatment plant, because many of food process industries or pharma industries need a very high quality of water. So they have a small water treatment. So we also optimize their water treatment, and optimizing cleaning and saniting procedures, optimize packaging, washing and rinsing. That is also very important. Also go for the optimization of their cooling towers, which is very common in MSME, and simply optimize the water hoses in their sanitary system. So these are the checklists we use while going for the water analysis. A case study again in one of our ceramic industry, where it is a grinding ball mill. They put all ingredients like raw material, water and riverbed stones, and then there is a grinding, and it is a wet. The water is added, which is again filtered through 40 ms mesh size. And earlier that filtered water was they used to send to drain, and then we realized, oh, we can store instead of draining it. And again, since it is a wet grinding ball mill, again the same water can be used. So ultimately it reduces their fresh water demand, and we could able to save the charges of water, and which is very important, and almost more than 8 KLD, kiloliter per day, we could able to reduce their fresh water demand just by recycling of that filtered water. So this is what the management internalization there. It is a very well planned and structured methodology, and therefore we have to plan a good RECP options, monitor it, and then with the benchmarking, I have shown you the 6 parameters we compare and check, and then the management is sometime uh, agree to it, or sometime there is again some resistance, some apprehension, which we are trying to overcome. Again, few slides regarding the realizing of cleaner production. Fortunately, in Gujarat, a subject on cleaner production has been introduced at the graduation level of engineering, and incidentally, the book which we have complied with the theory of concept of methodology and tools, and many success stories are being used by those students as a reference material. This is one of the important gap which I felt while working on RECP, that industries are doing themselves, and many academia institutions, they are just bothering about finishing their course, conducting exam and all that, and facilitator or government is simply watching. So at least I have started interlinking of these three major stakeholders, where we invite abstracts of graduate and postgraduate and research scholars, students work on some research and development which could be useful for the industry. So we invite the abstract from the students, we invite also students, and many a time I also take some real problem from the industries and assign these as a project to the students, because I'm associated with a number of academic institutions. So here I'm also coming up, and we find many times a very good work on research and development from the students. Fortunately, there is a political will to more and more go for RECP. The first time in our country, that is Gujarat state, has instituted a cleaner production award, which is given to the industry who has done a best exemplary work of implementation of RECP, which result into their reduction in their water consumption, so a reduction in wastewater, reduction in solid waste, reduction in energy consumption, and reduction in emissions. So this is what the award is given by the state government, right from 2005 and 2006, when Honorable Prime Minister was here as a chief minister. Every year it is given. Also, as I told you, that we realize that there is some economical barriers also. Industries do not have small fund to implement. So there is a scheme of what assistance for environmental protection measures in our industrial policy 2020, where if an industry has implemented a cleaner production concept, RECP concept, which has reduced their water consumption or material consumption or wastewater generation or energy consumption, 35% of the total expenditure with a cap of rupees 35 lakhs is being reimbursed by the government. So that is what we have created. Subject is there, a policy is there for CP award, and also policy is there for the financial assistance. And with all these uh, efforts, we see that at least we are able to generate some success stories. Again, I'm thank to WRI and my colleague Ashok, who has given me this opportunity to share our views and all that. And just to tell you, we are also working on retrofitting of our existing industrial estate into eco-industrial park, where we have more and more RECP at unit level. We also go for the upgradation of common infrastructure like roads, water supply, drainage, the common effluent treatment plant, or common treatment storage disposal facilities for solid waste. And also we are working on the industrial symbiosis, that how best waste of an industry can be used as a raw material or some resource for the industry. Thank you very much for giving me the chance. Thank you, Tejaswini.